When I sat down to write today's episode, I anticipated to struggle a lot more with this topic. I anticipated inadequacy. I anticipated to reaffirm the fear that I've always had, the fear of the future. But before I sat down to start actually writing it, I stumbled across a couple old journal entries that I had written, and of course, I took that as the sign that I needed to read them in that moment. And I was shocked by my own words. I was shocked to read and remember those words from the moment that I felt the most directionless in my life. And it made me realize that I haven't written a journal entry like that in a while. I haven't sat down and cried my eyes out because I haven't felt the need to do it for the same reasons. I haven't feared the future like I once did. Now, of course, it's still in me. It's always been there. I've always been programmed to be late to the party. But I always show up just in my own time, which is exactly the point of this entire podcast and why we're all here together. But it doesn't mean that I still don't have those nights where I lie awake wondering if I'll hate myself when I'm 26. And over time, I've discovered that this feeling I've always struggled with comes from a place of feeling detached from the future. I can't relate myself to the future because it hasn't happened yet, so rather than seeing it and veering towards the good that'll be there, I veer towards the bad in hopes that I can prepare myself for it. But I've learned this last year that you cannot do that. No matter how much preparation you do, you can never fully prepare for the future. I used to yearn to have some sense of control over what my future would look like. Like, genuinely, if you would have told that girl in high school that wrote all those journal entries, she'd be sitting here posting something with this video title, this podcast title, she wouldn't have believed you. So today we're talking about the future. We're going to get real about the anxiety, the existential dread, and then I'm going to share a couple things that, going back, I've realized have been big things that have helped me deal with that immediate anxiety or fear towards the future. And then, of course, we will connect it back to music as we always do here. So, a little backstory. I graduated in the year of 2020, so COVID's time to shine. And if I'm completely honest, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want it to take any more of my life than it already has. But the truth is that year it did. That year it completely changed all my expectations for what I thought it was going to look like, as I'm sure it did for every single person listening to this. And if I'm totally honest, I can't sit here and say it's all COVID's fault because I do think more or less my mindset probably would have been very similar, but I was directionless. I graduated in a year that I couldn't celebrate, and it felt very much like that chapter never actually concluded, and I found it hard to not only figure out what was coming next, but feel like it was time to figure out what's coming next. Of course, I don't say it to say it was the end of the world, because clearly it wasn't. I'm right here and everything's fine. But I spent a chunk of my life with unresolved feelings. On top of all the years I spent through high school with those same feelings of not knowing where to go or to even figure out which direction I wanted to go in at all. And I spent a lot of that time complaining in my journals, as we all should be doing. So, referencing back to the beginning of this podcast, I mentioned I was rereading some of those, and these were some of the entries that I'd found. And I stumbled across the one that I had written on the day that I had graduated, which was very unclear because I had walked the stage and filmed it for the video days before, but then I technically wasn't still done school, but then it was the day that they were airing the graduation for everyone to see on their TVs. So whatever that means, it was confusing to me, but it was kind of like the day of the graduation. So naturally, I was talking about my fears of the future in it, and I wrote this one line. I said, "By running away from everything that scares me, I was just minimizing the time I had to enjoy it." And I kid you not, when I reread that, it changed the game for me. If you regularly listen to this podcast, then you know that we're coming towards the end of our series on time. We have this episode today and then one more next week. So naturally, I've been thinking about time so much. So that statement has never felt more true to me than right now. Anxiety is real. It's real, and I feel it. And there are moments that I can't escape the truth that it holds in my mind. But I also acknowledge that it's stealing from me. It's stealing my life. And the more time that I spend with it, the less time I spend with love and joy and excitement and laughter. So when we're talking about our anxiety that's surrounding the future, it typically comes from a place where we're trying to control something because we don't understand it. We fall into the trap that we start to believe that we can predict it if we just think about it long enough. And I feel this quite often. And there are still areas in my life that I let anxiety win. I'm not sitting here and saying I figured it all out, and I don't want it to come across that way. But I do come on here to share the good news that if you work at it, there will be a day that you notice the difference in yourself. There will be a day that you don't worry about the unknown in the same ways that you once did. So, right now, if you're listening to this because you're feeling fear towards your future, I want you to place yourself in the present moment, right here, right now. Name what's around you. Name the table that your arms are on, or the ground that you're walking on, or the window at work that you're looking out of right now. And then make a mental note of what you're doing. Are you working right now? Are you studying right now? Are you at school right now? Or are you exploring somewhere new that you've never been? And once you figured out what is defining the moment that you're living in right in this moment, I want you to remember and realize that 2 years ago, you were worried about the phase that you're in right now. The phase of your current life that you're living in was once something that gave you the anxiety that you're worrying about for the next season of your life. And if you can remember to look back on it and see that by living in this moment right now, you're proving to yourself that you will be fine. That is one of the first things that helps ease my anxiety. Especially if you're anywhere near my age, in your 20s, it seems like life is constantly switching back and forth between this and that and this and that, and it's always changing. And there's always something new that you develop a fear towards, that if you can sit back and realize that you have currently made it through many, many things that you've worried about in the past, then it takes the power away from the fear that you have right now, because you have the perspective to see that you can handle it because you're doing it right now. On top of this, our thinking is so often flawed. We are thinking about our future with our present day mindsets of what we're capable of. This fear that we've created of the future is based on no merit except what has previously occurred. And just because something has happened does not mean it's going to happen again. Which leads us into the conversation of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is our tendency to only give importance to the evidence that supports how we want to feel about something, which as a result typically removes our critical thinking and often leads us to one fitted perspective. When I was recently scrolling through Pinterest, I found a quote that perfectly encapsulates what this feeling is, and I wanted to share it. It's from the book called Dust, which I've never read, but the book is by Hugh Howey, and he says, "There is good and bad in all things. We find what we expect to see. I have learned that if I tilt my head just right and squint, the world outside is beautiful, the future is bright, there are good things to come." If you are looking towards the future and you're anticipating failure and disappointment, you have to ask yourself what things you're holding on to from your past that were once true that don't serve your life anymore. The importance of confirmation bias and learning to control it has nothing to do with actually controlling the circumstances of your life, but instead has everything to do with how you perceive it. Focusing on the good does not eliminate the bad, but it is true that what you highlight will eventually overtake the other. It's exactly like the tale of two wolves. If you have two wolves, one that's in place of joy, excitement, love, and the other that holds anger, bitterness, selfishness, and you ask which one will win in a battle, it will always be the one that you feed. This parable is popular for a reason. It's because it's true. The more that you tell yourself that you're capable, the more you will affirm that within yourself. All that's required of you is a positive perspective and primary action. Primary action is a weird one because I never would have thought to include it in this episode if I hadn't opened up my 2024 vision board and went back to it. Back in January, I made my first vision board that I ever have because I was influenced to do it, okay? I'll say it. They influenced me to do it. But I really didn't have much inspiration for it other than the word persistence, so I kind of just went off prayer and guidance as I went through old magazines and cut things up and pasted what sparked some kind of interest in my heart, in my mind. And as I was going through my old magazines, I came across this article that was titled Primary Action. And it kind of stopped me right in my tracks, and I couldn't tell you why. It just was like, yeah, primary action. And I cut it out and I pasted it in my vision board. And I couldn't even tell you what the article was about because I didn't read it. But throughout the year, the times that I've gone back to that vision board and looked at it, those words have always stuck out to me because they remind me to narrow my vision. In times when I'm so overwhelmed, it's the reminder that I just have to make one choice right now. I don't have to know it all. I just need to pick something that projects me positively in the direction that I want to go in. Honestly, what I've noticed in my short amount of life on this earth is that we make it out to be about the big events, but we lack to acknowledge that what gets us there in the first place is a bunch of small decisions. Last week, I started to talk about habits because they are very important in what make up your day and then what makes up your week and your month and your year and your life and so on. And that just comes back to this idea of primary action. Just taking one positive step forward when we don't know exactly where to go. And there's one specific song that has been by my side for this whole year, and the album for that matter has been by my side. It was just one of those things that you find it when you need it. And the song specifically is called Nothing to Be Scared Of by Kacey Musgraves. In it, she sings this one line. She says, "I made a list of everything that I've been busy chasing. But if a train is meant for me, it won't leave the station." And as simple as the message is, when I heard that for the first time, it just struck a chord with me. The idea that if there's a place I'm meant to be, then I'll be there, just eased my immediate anxiety so much. It's the easiest thing in the world to fall into the trap of feeling like you need a 5-year plan, of having something to almost present yourself as, which was something that I always lacked, and because of it, created massive insecurity in myself that, looking back, actually just blocked me more than it helped me, and is probably why this topic has become such a big part of who I feel like I am. I dreaded having to meet new people and having to catch up with old people and have nothing to show for it, nothing to tell them, nothing to say that I was excited about. That was the worst part for me. But those feelings are more than normal. And what I've learned is that when you're triggered, it's not the time to spiral. So that's why I start small. I start with one small action, like I said earlier. Humor me for a second, and let's just go back to that one Casey Musgraves song where she sings, "If a train's meant for me, it won't leave the station." What if you just need to get yourself to the station? If you're staring blankly into a future and you don't know where to go, or even if you know where to go but you're just scared, just get yourself to the station. Start looking at the world as an opportunity for good in your life, and good in your heart, and good in your soul. If you involve yourself in the things or the places that you love, the trains will show up. You just have to be there. The truth is, we will never be able to control which trains show up and when they do. All we can control is if we're there and if we have the bravery to step on. You don't need to know your exact destination, you just need to know the direction. The less metaphorical way of saying this is just to switch your perspective. Notice your confirmation bias about the future and just choose to see it in a different way. Recognize your feelings of anxiety, but instead name them as excitement, even if that means lying to yourself from the start. I want to go back just once more to those journal entries that I was talking about at the beginning of today's episode. This example of being able to go back and read something and see just how much tangible change there is in me is exactly why I journal, and it is exactly why I will always tell people to journal. Journaling proves your fears wrong. Case in point, I started this episode off thinking that I was going to be the same person that I've always felt like I've been. But when I opened those books and I saw what I'd written, I realized that I'm not that girl anymore. I may relate to her and feel similar things to her, but I don't fear the way that she did. I don't relate to the message that she made her personality out to be anymore. There's a difference in me. And being able to experience that feeling is exactly why we're supposed to journal. I was able to prove my feelings wrong. And there's not that many places where you get to see it and actually feel that and come to know what that feeling is like. It's very powerful and it's very moving, and that's why it's important for me to say in this episode, is because when we're talking about our fear of the future, it always comes from a version of us from the past, right? Like right now, I fear the phase of my life when I'm 25, 26, because I anticipate that that's the time where I'm gonna have to figure things out more. Like there's going to be more expected of me to know that I can't dilly-dally anymore. But that's coming from this version of myself. And once I get there, I'm going to be worried about me when I'm 30. But the importance of journaling is that 18-year-old girl who was worried about being 22, now I sit here and I live here and I am that age and I'm fine. I'm fine. And that is the greatest gift of journaling you could ever receive. So I had to talk about it. But before we finish today, back to music as we always do. So I have a list of some songs that I feel like are specific to different feelings towards the future that I want to share with you. So if you are trembling with anxiety right now, then listen to Honey, It's Alright by Gregory Alan Isakov. If you are spiraling into an episode right now, then listen to Morning Sun by Melody Gardot. If you're looking at the future with bittersweet feelings, then listen to Scott Street by Phoebe Bridgers. If you're looking into the future and seeing a blank page, a map with no directions, then listen to You Might Find Yours by Tom Rosenthal. If you're looking into the future and feeling like it's time for a change, then listen to I'll Follow the Sun by the Beatles. To finish, I just want to say that it's okay. It's okay to be worried. And it's okay If you feel like you shouldn't be worrying anymore, but you're still worrying, it's okay. I'll probably worry about something in 5 years that I could never even think of to worry about right now, because with new phases comes new struggles, and that's okay. The only thing you have to do is to watch how much you let it dictate how you live your life. It reminds me of Matthew 6, verse 34. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day is enough trouble of its own. The last tip I will give you is to see the value of your future as more than just your identity. This leans a little bit into what we're going to talk about next week or next episode, which will be the transcendent of time. But if you're placing your value into things that can be taken from you, like career or goals, then you will surely feel unsettled at some point in your future, because you've placed everything in something that you cannot control if it's there. All of these things can be taken from us. What cannot be taken from us is how we love people, how we treat people, how we treat the world, and how we take care of ourselves. And if you put more value into your character rather than your job per se, then when 10 years goes by and that job gets taken from you, it's not the end of the world, because you have the confidence in yourself to know that you will be fine. For instance, I don't go see my grandpa because at one point in his life he was a farmer, or he built some really good quality houses. I go see my grandpa because I love him, because he creates an environment that I want to be in, because I want to hear the stories he has to tell, and because he's one of my favorite people in the world. There is more to us than our futures. As always, all the social media and sources are in the show notes below. Let's let music bring us together, and don't forget to grow up slowly.